The laughter of friends filled the room, but all I could hear was the sound of my heart shattering. At 7:03 p.m., he stood before everyone, his smirk slicing through my trust like glass. "I never loved you," he declared, the words echoing in the silence that followed. In an instant, the party turned into my nightmare, and I felt the weight of their gazes, pity mixed with disbelief. As he walked away, I realized I was left with nothing but the shards of betrayal. My name is Zara. I will never let anyone break me like that again. The chill of the evening air wrapped around me as I stumbled outside, my heart racing not only from the confrontation, but also from the desperate need to escape the suffocating atmosphere inside the house. The laughter and chatter of my family faded into a distant murmur, replaced by the thundering beats of my own pulse, each thump a painful reminder of the betrayal that had just unfolded. I leaned against the cool brick wall of our home, fighting back the tears that threatened to spill over. This was not how I envisioned this night, a celebration of family, laughter, and love. Instead, it had transformed into a grotesque display of my father's cruelty. I had always believed that my father was a pillar of strength and integrity. Daniel had been the man who taught me how to ride a bike, who cheered the loudest at my soccer games, and who promised to always protect his family. The images of those happier times clashed violently with the stark reality of his words. I felt a tidal wave of anger surging within me, the kind that burned hot and unyielding. I had never thought I would feel this way about him. And the thought of my little brother Leo idolizing a man capable of such betrayal sent fearful shivers down my spine. In the distance, I heard the door open, followed by the soft padding of footsteps. It was Grace, her face lit by the soft glow of the porch light, worry etched into her features. "Zara, where are you?" she called, her voice tinged with concern. I took a deep breath, but the ache in my chest tightened. The last thing I wanted was to talk about it, but I knew I couldn't hide forever. "I'm out here, Mom," I replied, forcing my voice to stay steady. As she stepped outside, the relief on her face turned to alarm when she caught sight of my expression. "What happened in there?" she asked, coming closer. I could see the questions swirling in her eyes, the desperation to protect the family she cherished so deeply. I shook my head, unable to find the words that could encapsulate the storm inside me. "It's Dad, I need some time alone." But she didn't leave. Instead, she moved to stand beside me, her presence a comforting balm against the chaos that was my heart. Grace always had a way of grounding me, even in the most tumultuous moments. "Honey, I know this is hard. I saw the look on your face when he said that," she murmured, her voice soft but firm. I turned to her, tears finally spilling down my cheeks as I felt a dam break within me. How could he do this? How could he say those things in front of everyone? Grace sighed, the weight of understanding resting heavily on her shoulders. "People make mistakes, Zara. Sometimes they don't even realize the pain they cause until it's too late." Her words hung in the air, an attempt to soothe the raw wound, but also a reminder of the difficult truth that families can be complicated. I wiped my tears with the back of my hand and swallowed hard, trying to process the enormity of the situation. But this isn't just a mistake, Mom. This is betrayal. A shadow passed over Grace's face, and I could see her own turmoil reflected in her eyes. It was as if she, too, had been forced to confront the reality of my father's actions. I know, sweetheart, and it breaks my heart, too. But we have to find a way to move forward. For Leo's sake, for our sake. I glanced back toward the house, the once warm light now feeling cold and foreign. Leo was still inside, blissfully unaware of the chaos that had unfolded, caught up in his own world of admiration for our father. "Do you think he'll ever understand?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "How can he look up to someone like that?" Grace placed a hand on my shoulder, her grip confident, yet firm. "He will, in time. We just have to be honest with him when the moment comes. You're stronger than you know, Zara. Just remember that." Her words echoed in my mind, but I felt anything but strong. I wanted to believe that love could mend the rift that had formed between us, but the thought of facing my father filled me with dread. What if the next time I saw him, he smiled that same smug smile, indifferent to the pain he had caused? I took a deep breath, the weight of my emotions crashing down like a wave, and turned back to Grace. "I don't think I can face him right now." "You don't have to," she said gently. "Let's give it some time. We can talk to Leo together, and we'll figure out how to approach your father when you're ready." I nodded, grateful for her steadying presence. Together, we stood in silence, the cool night air wrapping around us as I tried to collect my scattered thoughts. As I gazed up at the stars twinkling above, I couldn't help but feel that my world had irrevocably changed. The bright constellation seemed to mock me, distant and untouchable, just like the love I had for my father. I yearned for the days when everything felt right, when family gatherings were filled with laughter instead of the bitter taste of betrayal. But beneath the sorrow, a flicker of hopeful determination ignited within me. I wasn't going to let this destroy me. I would face my father, confront the truth, and reclaim my voice. I would not be a passive observer in this story. No, I would write the next chapter myself, one filled with resilience and, perhaps, if I was lucky, a path toward healing. "Let's go inside," I finally said, taking a step toward the door. "I need to talk to Leo before he hears it from anyone else." Grace nodded and followed me, her unwavering support fueling my resolve as we prepared to navigate the complicated waters of family, love, and truth. As I stepped into the house, the familiar scent of baked cookies filled the air, a stark contrast to the turmoil swirling in my heart. Leo was sprawled on the living room floor, surrounded by colorful building blocks, his energetic concentration evident as he crafted an elaborate fortress. For a moment, I felt a pang of nostalgia for simpler times, a time when the greatest concern was which toy to play with next. He looked up at me with wide eyes, his face lighting up like a sunrise. "Zara, look what I made!" he exclaimed, pride radiating from him as he pointed at his creation. I smiled weakly, crouching down to get a better look. "Wow, that's amazing, Leo. You're a master builder," I replied, but my heart felt heavy. How could I break the news that our family, our fortress, was cracking at the seams? I ruffled his hair, the comforting gesture, reminding me of the innocent bond we shared before everything changed. My brother had always been my little shadow, looking to me for guidance, and suddenly I felt the serious weight of that responsibility more than ever. "Are we having the party now?" he asked, glancing toward the kitchen where I could hear Grace softly humming, a soothing melody that reminded me of better days. The laughter and chatter of our relatives still echoed in my ears, but the joy of that moment felt distant. "Not just yet, bud. I need to talk to you first, okay?" His expression shifted slightly, a nervous flicker of concern crossing his features. "About Dad?" I nodded, the lump in my throat growing heavier. "Yeah, it's about Dad, and it's really important." I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. The last thing I wanted was to crush his spirit. Yet I knew I had to speak the truth. "Can you help me clean up this mess first?" Leo nodded enthusiastically, eager to distract himself from the weight of my words. We worked side by side, gathering the brightly colored blocks and stacking them neatly. As we tidied up, I searched for the right words, the right moment, but they eluded me. Each time I opened my mouth, the fear of shattering his innocence paralyzed me. Once the room was back in order, I sat on the edge of the couch, gesturing for Leo to join me. "You know how you always say Dad is the best?" I asked, hoping to gauge his feelings. "Of course! He's super strong and always plays with me," Leo replied, his eyes shining with happy admiration. "That's true," I acknowledged, trying to keep my voice steady. "But sometimes, even the people we love can make mistakes." The words felt heavy as they left my lips. "What kind of mistakes?" Leo tilted his head, his innocence cloaking the gravity of the situation. I hesitated, weighing my options. How much should I reveal? "Well, he did something that hurt me and Mom, something really bad." Leo's face fell, the realization slowly dawning on him. "But he loves us," Leo protested, his voice quivering slightly. "I know it feels that way, but love sometimes gets complicated." I took a moment to gather my thoughts. "We need to talk about it together as a family. I don't want you to hear it from anyone else." Leo stared at me, his eyes wide with disbelief. "But he wouldn't do that. He said he'd always be with us." Sometimes people say things to make us feel better, but their actions can tell a different story. I wished I could shield him from this pain, but I knew it was better for him to hear the truth from me than from someone else. "Can you promise me something?" "Anything," he replied eagerly, a small glimmer of hope still residing in his eyes. "Just promise me that no matter what, you'll talk to me about how you feel. I'll always be here to listen, okay?" His expression softened, and he nodded. "Okay, Zara, I promise." With that small agreement, I felt a tiny spark of relief. I didn't know how to fix everything, but at least we had each other. I pulled him into a hug, and he melted into me, clinging tightly, as if he could ward off the storm brewing outside our family. "Let's go find Mom," I said, standing up and offering him my hand. "We should talk to her about all of this together." As we walked to the kitchen, the sounds of laughter faded, replaced by the nervous, lingering tension that hung in the air. Grace was at the counter, her back turned to us as she washed the dishes. The sight of her, so devoted and nurturing, filled me with both love and sadness. I knew how much she had tried to keep our family together, and the thought of breaking her heart made me ache. "Mom," I called softly, and she turned, her eyes lighting up as she saw us. "Can we talk? It's important." "Of course, sweetie. Just give me a moment," she replied, wiping her hands on a towel. I could see the worry etched on her face as she glanced between Leo and me. "Is it about Dad?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, feeling the sad weight of our family's struggles pressing down on us. We need to face this together. Together, Grace echoed, her eyes searching mine for hopeful reassurance. As we stood there, the three of us linked by our shared uncertainty, I couldn't help but hope that we could find a way through the darkness and start to heal our broken hearts. With shaky breaths and fragile hearts, we gathered in the living room, ready to confront the truth that had shattered our family. I had no idea what the outcome would be, but I knew that facing it together was the hopeful first step toward reclaiming our lives. If you found this chapter engaging and want to follow Zara's journey, consider subscribing for more. As I looked around the room, I felt the weight of expectation pressing down on me. The air was thick with unspoken words, each one teetering on the edge of revelation, waiting for someone to speak. I caught sight of Leo, who was perched on the edge of the couch, his wide eyes darting between my parents, searching for hopeful reassurance. In his gaze, I could see the glimmer of the boy who still believed in the hero his father was supposed to be. My heart ached for him. Innocence lost can never be regained. Grace shifted nervously beside Daniel, her hands intertwined, betraying her struggle to maintain the semblance of a family while uncertainty loomed over us like a storm cloud. I could see the question swirling in her mind. How could she protect Leo while grappling with the reality of her own shattered dreams? The love that had once been the glue holding us together now felt like a fragile facade, threatened by the truth that lay just beneath the surface. I had to break the silence. It was time to rip off the bandage, even if it meant letting the pain seep out. "Dad, why did you do it?" My voice came out confident than I expected, cutting through the silence like a knife. I felt all eyes on me, each family member waiting for Daniel's response, as if his words held the power to either heal or further fracture us. He hesitated, his brow furrowing in surprised confusion, as if my question had caught him off guard. I could almost see him calculating his answer, searching for words that wouldn't cut too deep. "Zara, he started, but I interrupted, my emotions boiling over, fueled by a mixture of anger and despair. "Do you even understand what you've done? You didn't just betray Mom, you've betrayed all of us. You stood there, smiling, while we celebrated as if everything was fine. What were you thinking?" My voice trembled, and I clenched my fists to suppress the surge of emotions threatening to overwhelm me. Leo shifted uncomfortably, glancing at our mother as if looking for guidance. "Dad, you're still our dad, right? You didn't mean to hurt anyone, did you?" His innocence was heartbreaking, and I turned to him, swallowing my frustration. He didn't deserve to shoulder the burden of our parents' mistakes. Daniel looked at Leo, his expression a mix of regret and sorrow. "Son, I never wanted to hurt you. I made a mistake," he said, his voice cracking. It was a moment of weakness, something that spiraled out of control. "A moment of weakness?" I echoed, incredulously. "This isn't just a slip-up, Dad. It's a betrayal that could tear our family apart." Each word felt like a punch to the gut, but I needed to voice the truth that had been festering inside me. "Zara, please," Grace interjected softly, her eyes glistening with tears. "Let's not escalate this further. We need to understand, to talk this out." Her nurturing nature was at odds with the rising storm of emotions in the room. Yet I could see her trying to hold everything together to keep us from spiraling into chaos. "Understand what, Mom?" I shot back, frustration spilling over. "Understanding doesn't erase the pain. It doesn't change what he did." "It's true, Grace," Daniel said, his tone shifting from defensive to remorseful. I made an unforgivable choice, and I know that. I am sorry. I can't take it back, but I want to make it right. His admission hung in the air like a heavy fog, pressing down on us all. I was torn between wanting to believe him and feeling an overwhelming urge to protect myself from further hurt. I looked at Grace. She wore a mask of calm that belied the turmoil beneath. Making it right? I scoffed, my anger boiling over. How do you intend to do that? With words? With hollow promises? You've shattered our trust, Dad. I don't even know who you are anymore. Leo's small voice broke through the tension. But we can fix it, right? Like, we can be a family again. His hopeful optimism was a stark contrast to the suffocating reality that surrounded us, and I felt a surge of protectiveness for him. I want things to be okay. Me too, I whispered, my heart aching as I recognized the longing in my brother's voice. This wasn't just about me. It was about the future we had all envisioned together, a future that now felt precarious. Daniel reached for Leo, but I stepped in between them, unwilling to let my brother be caught in the crossfire. Don't drag him into this mess, Dad. He deserves better. Zara, I love you both, Daniel said, desperation creeping into his voice. I want to fix this. It's just, I never meant to hurt anyone, least of all you. I clenched my jaw, torn between the flicker of hope his words ignited and the overwhelming sense of betrayal that still simmered inside me. Love isn't just a word, Dad. It requires actions, and right now, your actions are telling a different story. Silence enveloped us again, but this time it felt heavy with potential rather than despair. Daniel's shoulder slumped, and I could see the weight of his secrets pressing down on him, while Grace reached out to hold his hand, a flicker of hopeful solidarity in the midst of chaos. I don't know what the future holds for us, I admitted, my voice softer now, but I do know that we have to face this head on. We can't pretend everything is fine when it's not. If we want to heal, we have to confront the truth together. As the words left my lips, I felt a strange sense of clarity washing over me. It wouldn't be easy, but perhaps there was a path forward, one that involved honesty and vulnerability. A path that could potentially lead us back to each other, even if it was filled with uncomfortable conversations and painful revelations. I took a deep breath, ready to venture down that uncertain road, hoping that maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to the family we once were, or redefine what family meant in the wake of betrayal. The days that followed the family gathering felt like an endless cycle of uncertainty and tension. I avoided looking at Daniel, my father, trying to keep my heart shielded from the reality of his betrayal. Each morning, I would wake up with the weight of the truth pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. Leo, blissfully unaware, would burst into my room with his usual enthusiasm, dragging my focus away from the darkness that hovered over our home. I forced myself to smile for him, to play the role of the protective older sister, despite the gnawing pain in my gut. Grace tried to maintain a sense of normalcy, filling our home with the scent of freshly baked cookies and the sound of laughter that felt increasingly distant. She was a beacon of warmth, but even her kindness couldn't hide the cracks that were forming in our family. I could see the worry lines deepening on her forehead, the slight tremor in her hands as she washed the dishes or prepared dinner. Each time I caught her looking at Daniel with a mixture of love and hurt, my heart ached for her, but I also felt anger bubbling beneath the surface. Did she not see what I saw? One afternoon, while Leah was engrossed in a video game, I found Grace sitting at the kitchen table, staring blankly at a half-finished crossword puzzle. I hesitated before approaching her, the words I wanted to say hanging heavily on my tongue. "Mom?" I finally ventured, hoping to cut through the silence that had settled between us. She looked up, her eyes clouded with a mix of exhaustion and a hint of relief that I had broken the quiet. "Yes, dear." I sat across from her, the table feeling like an invisible barrier. "How are you holding up?" I asked, wanting to reach out but unsure how to navigate this conversation without causing more pain. She sighed, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "I'm trying, honey. I really am." The weariness in her voice was palpable, and I felt my chest constrict at the thought of her suffering alone. "Do you think we can talk about what happened? About Dad?" Her expression shifted, a flicker of vulnerability crossing her face. "I wish it were that simple, Zara." She paused, and I could see her weighing her words carefully. "I don't want to put you in the middle of this. You have enough on your plate." The thought of being shielded from the truth felt like a burden rather than a protection. "But I want to know, Mom. I want to understand what's happening." Grace's gaze softened as she nodded slowly. "Daniel loves you and Leo more than anything, but sometimes love gets tangled up in mistakes. It's hard to untangle those threads." I felt a swell of frustration. "But he hurt you. He hurt us. How can love coexist with betrayal?" The tears began to well in her eyes, and I immediately felt sad, guilty for my outburst. "I know, sweetheart. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's so difficult to rebuild. But we have to make choices that are best for our family." Her voice trembled slightly, and I could sense the deep-rooted pain behind her words. What if rebuilding means confronting him? What if we can't just pretend everything will be okay? "Then we confront him together," she said, firmly, a glimmer of determination igniting in her eyes. "We face this as a family. We can't heal without honesty." Her words resonated with me, igniting a flicker of hope. I nodded, feeling empowered by the prospect of taking a stand, not just for myself, but for Grace and Leo as well. As the evening approached, I gathered my courage, determined to speak to Daniel. The thought of seeing him again sent a wave of fear crashing over me, but I knew this was necessary. I found him in the living room, sitting in his favorite armchair, the newspaper spread across his lap. He looked up, and for a moment, I was taken aback by the guilt etched on his features. "Zara," he greeted, his voice low and careful. "Dad," I responded, my heart racing. "We need to talk." The weight of those words hung heavy in the air, and I saw the tension tighten in his shoulders. He set the newspaper aside, his gaze steady on me, as if he sensed the gravity of the moment. "About what happened?" "About everything," I pressed, trying to keep my voice steady. "You hurt Mom, and you hurt me and Leo. I need to understand why. Why did you let us all down?" My heart pounded in my chest, the truth spilling out like a torrent I could no longer contain. I saw the way his expression shifted, a mix of regret and something darker, defensiveness. "Zara, it's complicated," he replied, his voice strained. "You're too young to understand." "No, Dad. I interrupted, my emotions boiling over. I'm not too young. I see the mess you've made. We all do. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself, to channel my hurt into clarity. You can't just hide behind excuses. You have to face what you've done, not just for us, but for yourself. His eyes softened, and for a moment I thought he might finally understand. I never wanted to hurt you, any of you. It was a mistake, one I regret deeply. The sincerity in his voice struck a chord, but I wasn't sure if it was enough to mend the fractures in our family. Regret isn't enough, Dad, I said, my voice trembling with conviction. We need more than apologies. We need truth. We need to know if you're willing to fight for us. I stood my ground, my heart racing at the prospect of what his answer could mean for our family. As I waited for his response, I felt a glimmer of hope mixed with uncertainty. Maybe, just maybe, we could start to rebuild from the ashes of betrayal, but only if he was willing to embrace the honesty that lay before us. The room fell silent, the weight of my words hanging heavy in the air. I held my breath, my heart pounding in my chest as I searched my father's face for some sign of remorse or understanding. Daniel's expression was unreadable, a mixture of shock and contemplation. I could almost hear the gears turning in his mind as he processed my challenge. My mother, Grace, stood nearby, her eyes darting between us, her hands clasped tightly in front of her like a lifeline. I wanted to reach out to her, to find solace in her presence, but the moment demanded my full attention on Daniel. "Zara," he finally said, his voice steady yet strained, "you have no idea how complicated things are." I felt the anger rise in me, the instinct to push back, to demand he stop hiding behind vague explanations. "Complicated? You mean deceitful?" I shot back, my voice sharper than I intended. "You can't just brush this off as something that's complicated. You made choices, and now we're all left picking up the pieces." He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Instead, I saw a flicker of something in his eyes. Perhaps guilt? I wasn't sure. It seemed fleeting, washed away by the remnants of bravado that had clouded his judgment. My heart ached for the father I once knew, the man who had always been my rock. But that man felt like a stranger standing before me now. Leo, unaware of the gravity of our confrontation, sat cross-legged on the floor, quietly playing with his action figures. He was too young to understand what was unraveling, but I caught him glancing up at Daniel, his admiration intact. I couldn't let my brother be dragged into this mess. He deserved a family that was whole, not one that was crumbling before his eyes. "Do you love her?" I asked, the question slipping from my lips like a whispered secret. "Do you still love Mom, or has everything just become a charade to you?" The air turned electric, every eye in the room fixed on Daniel, waiting for him to break the silence that had descended upon us. Grace took a step forward, her nurturing instincts pulling her closer to Daniel as if she could shield him from my anger. But I needed answers. "I deserve to know," I insisted, my voice softer now but no less demanding. He looked at my mother, and for the first time, I saw vulnerability weave its way into his expression. "I do love her," he said finally, though the words felt hollow, like a promise made under duress. "But life isn't always that simple." The bitterness in my throat threatened to choke me as I shook my head. You don't get to come in here, say you love her, and think that erases everything. You've hurt us, Dad." "I know," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "I know I've made mistakes, and I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt any of you." The sincerity in his eyes flickered, and for a moment I wanted to believe him. But believing him would mean accepting the pain of betrayal, a burden I wasn't ready to carry. Grace stepped in, her calm, soothing tone cutting through the tension. "We can work through this, Daniel. We have to try for the kids." Her voice trembled slightly, revealing the cracks in her own resolve. I wanted to scream that this wasn't just about us. This was about the trust that had been shattered, about the dreams that had been built only to crumble in an instant. But instead, I found myself growing quiet as the truth settled in. "What do we even build upon?" I murmured, half to myself. "How do we move forward when everything feels like a lie?" Daniel sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I don't know, but I want to try. I need to try," he said, his voice earnest. "Zara, please." I caught a glimpse of the father I had once loved unconditionally in his eyes, but I felt the angry walls I had built around my heart hardening even more. Leo, oblivious to the storm, picked up a toy and yelled, "Look, I'm the hero!" His innocent cheer felt like a knife to my chest. He shouldn't have to be the one holding everything together. I knelt down beside him, forcing a smile that felt foreign on my face. "You are the hero, Leo," I said, trying to sound convincing. "But even heroes need help sometimes." He looked at me with wide eyes, and for a fleeting moment, I found solace in my brother's innocence. If only it could shield him from the reality of our family's turmoil. I turned back to Daniel and Grace, seeking a sense of clarity. Can we really rebuild, or is this just a Band-Aid over an open wound? Daniel opened his mouth to respond, but before he could say anything, Grace interjected, her voice stronger this time. "We can't ignore the damage that's been done, but if we truly want to heal, we have to be willing to face it together." I looked at her, hopeful, admiration flooding my heart. Her unwavering strength gave me a glimmer of hope, but it was mingled with the fear of what lay ahead. "I don't want to keep pretending everything is fine," I admitted, my voice shaking. "I need to know we can be honest with each other, or I don't know how to move forward." The room felt smaller, the walls closing in on us as we stood at this precipice of truth and pain, hanging in the balance of our uncertain future. "Then let's start now," Daniel said, determination creeping into his tone. "No more secrets. We owe it to ourselves to face everything together." I felt a flicker of hope rise within me, but it was fragile, a tentative flame in the midst of a storm. Would it be enough to light the way forward, or would it flicker out before we could find our way? As we stood there, a family on the edge of healing, I realized that perhaps the road ahead would be long and winding, but the first step was taken. If anyone else has faced a moment like this, where truth and vulnerability collided, I invite you to share your stories. It's through our shared experiences that we can find strength in one another. In the days following the gathering, the atmosphere in our home felt charged, as if an invisible storm was brewing just beneath the surface. Silence stretched out like a taut wire, and my father's absence was felt in every corner of the house. I often heard my mother, Grace, whispering soothingly to Leo, trying to shield him from the storm that had erupted in our lives. Leo, oblivious to the full weight of what had happened, continued to idolize our father, unaware that the pedestal he had placed Daniel on was now dangerously unstable. I found myself drifting through the house, an intruder in my own life, unsure where to direct my anger or sadness. My eyes would sometimes catch Grace's, and I could see the weariness etched on her face. A reflection of the chaos that was unraveling around us. Despite her best efforts to keep things normal, the cracks in our family's facade were starting to show, and each day felt like a test of endurance. The laughter that once echoed in our living room had been replaced by a heavy silence that seemed to settle like dust, coating every surface of our interactions. One afternoon, I found Leo in the backyard, diligently attempting to fix his bike. His small hands struggled with the tools, but his determination was palpable. Watching him, I felt a surge of protectiveness. I wanted to tell him that things were changing, that our once secure little world was now a jigsaw puzzle missing several crucial pieces. But how could I break that news to a child who still believed in heroes? I approached him, forcing a smile, hoping to distract us both from the realities that loomed over us. "Hey, Leo, need some help?" I asked. Kneeling beside him and grabbing a wrench, he looked up, his eyes wide with happiness. "Yes, can you show me how to do this?" His excited enthusiasm warmed my heart, if only for a moment. As I guided his hands, showing him how to tighten the bolts properly, I realized that despite the turmoil, there were still moments of connection worth fighting for. But the sad weight of betrayal lingered in my mind like a shadow. I couldn't shake the images from the party, the laughter that had once filled the room, now replaced by my father's smile, the very smile that had betrayed us all. Each time I closed my eyes, I could see the moment frozen in time. Daniel's face, relaxed and carefree, while I felt my world tilt on its axis. I started to wonder if I had ever truly known him. Days turned into weeks, and the tension in our house only seemed to grow. My mother attempted to maintain the pretense of normalcy, cooking family dinners and insisting we sit together at the table. But the conversations felt strained, as if each word was a fragile glass ornament that might shatter at the slightest touch. I caught Grace stealing glances at my father when she thought no one was watching, her eyes revealing a mix of love and hurt that only deepened the sadness I felt. One evening, as I washed the dishes, I heard the front door creak open. My heart raced. Daniel had returned. I dried my hands and hesitated, torn between the urge to confront him and the instinct to shield Leo from the impending confrontation. Instead, I chose to listen. I stood still, straining to hear the muffled sounds of their exchange from the other room. "Grace, we need to talk," Daniel said, his voice low and heavy with the weight of unresolved tension. I could picture him, standing rigid, the shadows of his own choices creeping around him like a dark cloak. "Talk about what, Daniel?" Grace's voice held a tremor, an undercurrent of both fear and resolve. "What is there left to say that can make any of this right?" My heart pounded in my chest, and I leaned against the wall, feeling as if I were intruding on something sacred and painful. There was a pause, a moment where I could almost hear the thoughts swirling in their minds. "I don't expect forgiveness," Daniel finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But hopeful, I want to try to make things better. I miss our family." Those words pierced through the walls I had built around my heart. I wanted to believe him, to hope that the cracks could be mended. But trust is a fragile thing, and the pieces of our family felt scattered beyond repair. With my heart racing, I stepped back into the shadows, afraid to disturb what might still be a flickering flame of hope. The next day, I decided to confront my father. I found him in the garage, where he was tinkering with an old car he had promised Leo they would fix together. "We need to talk," I stated, my voice confident, steady, even as my insides churned with uncertainty. He looked up, surprise flashing across his face, before settling into a guarded expression. "Zara, No, you listen," I interrupted, determination giving my voice strength. "You can't just act as if everything is fine. You hurt us, and I need to understand why." He shifted, uncomfortably, the weight of my words hanging in the air between us. "I never meant for it to come to this," he began, but I could see the hesitation in his eyes, a flicker of the man I once admired, now crumbling under the pressure of his own choices. "This isn't just about you anymore," I said, forcing myself to hold his gaze. "It's about all of us. You need to take responsibility for what you've done." Daniel sighed, his shoulders slumping in defeat. "I know," he murmured. "I don't know how to fix this, but I want to try." As I stared at him, searching for any glimmer of sincerity, I realized that perhaps the hardest part of this journey would be forgiving him, not just for his mistakes, but for the loss of the father I thought I knew. The path to healing was steep, but for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope, tentative and fragile, yet undeniably present.